Hey, everybody, welcome back once again to Kinda Creepy. I'm Jason Emmett.
I'm Casey Masterpiece.
And I'm Twisted Kid Matt.
We have a major winter storm going on everywhere around here right now, and might be affecting some stuff. So if there's a little lag, guys, we apologize. I know internets and everything get crazy with snow because I don't really know why. I'm just making that shit up. All right, so as is always the case, we have 3 really cool clips for you and a really cool story this week. But here's the thing: this week we decided to do something a little different. Have you guys ever been watching Ghost Hunters or something online, and you see a video and they happen upon a real person and it's somehow scarier than the damn ghost might have been, or a real situation, and it's like, oh my God, that would terrify me more than seeing a ghost.
Yeah.
Well, we decided this week, let's do that. Let's each present a clip where truth is scarier than fiction, and our story is going to kind of play into that too. So we're going to start things off with my clip. This is a kind of famous urban explorer over on YouTube, Urbex Hill. Again, Urban Explorer channel. It goes into different buildings run down, different locations run down, things like that. Not a paranormal channel, but it isn't uncommon for him to run into people. And this particular one, the host name is Chris. He's in a elementary school, Paul Revere Elementary School in Cleveland, Ohio. And he's not looking for anything paranormal. He's just exploring. And we're going to talk a little bit about what goes on here, because as he's making his way through this dilapidated property, he starts hearing a noise. So let's go ahead and play the clip, and then I'll kind of talk about a few things as it goes on here. So he kind of hears something. He knows, I love that he shuts his flashlight off, because he thinks there's another person. Clearly, he doesn't think ghost, he thinks person, which makes sense. And boom, comes around the corner. He sees a flashlight. So he's like, you know what? I'm not going to mess with it. I'm just going to leave. Only he doesn't leave. He decides, I'm going to go down a floor and go into the bathroom. And this happens.
Oof. Okay, I just got a full body chill.
Yeah. You got full body chill. Okay. Yeah. So guess what he does? Do you think he leaves? Nah, he's going to go back in. Fuck that. Then he goes back in. And somebody's standing there.
Hello.
So this is him going back in.
I don't like any of this. Okay. Couple thoughts. It was just standing there perfectly on its own until it fell.
He has theories of that. All I can say is I wouldn't have went back in. I'd have left the damn building.
Right.
But he doesn't. He goes back in, and he walks up to it, and it is a mannequin that was standing up. He thinks, obviously somebody probably set it up to play a prank on other people that walk in. Now look how frightening this freaking mannequin is.
Yeah.
I just want to be.
Oh God.
So his theory is that when he walked in the room, it was probably just barely standing up, and noise echoing through the room, and just the general, movement of the floor, because he's up a couple levels, might have shook it just enough to make it finally lose balance and fall over.
Yeah.
A couple of things about him, he does all this urban exploring by himself. He has other videos where he has run across people. One of the things I will say is he carries a gun with him, and they talk about it a lot, that he draws his gun. I'm not so big a fan of that, because like dude, you're kind of asking to shoot a homeless person or another explorer, which clearly there was somebody in this building. What I can say though, is you have some huge testicles, because if I would have walked in there and seen that, I wouldn't have went back. I would have just left.
I'm leaving right now.
Right.
I like that, Matt. You were like, "Oh God, like chills just sit down my." And you knew that it was.
I've seen the clip before.
Yeah,
I've seen that one before.
I saw the clip.
And
I didn't know.
Every time it's just.
Yeah, when I first saw the clip, I didn't know it wasn't going to be paranormal. So when I first saw that, it freaked me out big time. So you at least knew it was, we're not. It's not paranormal, but I urge everybody to go over to at Urbex Hill over on YouTube. You can watch more of his. I kind of like those urban exploration videos. They're really cool. And then occasionally, and it's not a paranormal channel. Just want to be very clear.
I actually know somebody who does urban exploring for the sole purpose of taking photos.
Yeah.
And she's actually done that and put a lot of the photos into some books of just like,
oh, that's cool.
They're called like Abandoned Kansas City is what they're called.
There's some really cool places here.
We'll throw it up on screen at some point if we can remember to do that. So
the Cincinnati subway is supposedly haunted too, and it's all closed off. It never actually ended up existing.
I think you guys drove me by and showed me like
one of the entrances were. Yeah, we probably did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it never ended up like becoming an actual thing here.
It's just never been used. I mean, there was like supposedly like stations all set up, but never got used. No cars ran through it or anything.
Yeah. Was that a funding thing? Like, what do we know what caused it?
Well, it was like a few different issues. One, I mean, funding. Two, like the guy who came up with it was a guy by the name of Boss Cox, and he was sort of like a huge asshole, and he had a lot of enemies. And after he died, they wanted to just, in spite, just kind of like cancel the whole subway system down.
Of course, you have a lot of enemies. If your name is Boss,
Boss, Boss Hog,
Well, if you ever heard of like Tammany Hall in New York and Boss Tweed, we had a very similar situation here in Cincinnati.
That's crazy stuff.
Also named Boss.
I put it up on the last episode, but I did put we'll move along because we got some long clips. But I did put some stuff. Kevin is somewhat of a historian and does walking tours and things about Cincinnati, and I actually put up on the last episode, but American Legacy Tours, because you were talking about it, so I put up the American Legacy Tour logo and your haunted Mount Healthy tour, which you did because we were talking about the Mount Healthy fucking gorilla creature with bare body.
The Mount Healthy demon. Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna go into Kevin's clip here. Kev, why don't you quickly give us an intro of what your clip is, and then we'll play it.
Well, there's this guy walking through the Appalachian Trail, and as he's like going through the trail, he finds these bits of garbage, but with messages written on them. And it just gets creepier from there. He like goes into like different shelters along the trail path, and there's logbooks at these shelters, and there's like one logbook entry. There was this huge manifesto written. It's terrifying.
It sounds like he's making this up, but he's not. It's very. So 2021 night before Thanksgiving, this guy named Phil, like Kevin said, is out on the Appalachian Trail, finds a bunch of garbage with shit written all over it.
Helltown.
The weirdness continues.
Bigfoot.
I mean, this already would be like weird. It wouldn't be weird if people were writing like inspirational messages, but I guess they're all weird, creepy, nonsensical. I think it was like poems and lyrics,
and then just a dead duck. Cool. All right, that's fun.
Dead duck.
Is this Logan Paul filming this?
So then he says some of the notes are crazy conspiracy theories, odd ramblings. I can't read all that. But then he stumbles across a campsite, and then he runs into two women that were up on the trail that said they saw it as well and asked him to walk back down to his car. He then turned around and went back the other direction, like 2 to 3 miles in the other direction before setting up camp.
It's pretty smart, them asking him, like, hey, if this wasn't you, could you please walk us to our car?
This is one of those. This reminds me of the Bothy, but this is one of the log books that people that Kevin was talking about. They come out and they write. People who stayed out by the shelter will write stuff in it. Appalachian Trail is huge.
Let's see what this one says.
Oh yeah.
Just from like
engine, back section. Hiking again.
2021. Yeah.
Nice little trail.
So he's just kind of looking over some of the logs, stuff people have
some doodles.
A few drawings. Yeah.
All right. Let's see what's happened recently. Holy crap.
So
I saw the word Russian. Florence, Alabama.
Hold on, I'm adjust the camera here. This writing looks almost exactly like the writing that was on that garbage.
And it's today's
a couple of
date.
miles from
Yeah, hey, listen.
Does that say Heavy D in the boys?
well,
mhm.
it was
In
Heavy D in
2018, while I
traction.
was incarcerated at the Okaloosa
Oh
County
no.
What the heck?
All right.
jail, he's like,
Like, I'll just read this later.
now keep in mind, what he had done is
Special
he went back.
forces with the use of Air Force One. I'm just catching like little key phrases.
Refer to
He
Isaiah
went back,
28:15
referred to Isaiah 28:15.
through
He went
9.
back to the truck, walked the
This
girls
is
back,
the
and then headed
same
2 miles in the opposite direction
ramblings
to get away from this little campsite he'd seen. He doesn't even know if that was the person, but he
that
saw
was
it
on the
and
other
was
side of
afraid
the
it
river.
might be.
That's kind of scary. Kind of weird. Those
Little bit.
those women down there said they were going to call the police on the guy. Wow, this is weird. It's just like it goes in one direction, then immediately goes in a completely different direction.
Just like I would at that
It's-
moment.
It's schizophrenic, like, right? There, it's
Right.
like writing.
Then he's got Metallica lyrics, Master of Puppets lyrics in there.
In an attempt to obscure the
Grave
death
robbery.
of little Mrs. Wolf.
What?
Yeah, the person who wrote this, I think, has schizophrenia.
Wicked
They
schemes,
got some
JB, and
definite
Company, so I can show
Russian
some more of your true
collusion.
character. So he gets ready for bed, takes one last walk to his shelter up there,
yeet
and
mouse.
finds this hanging there. The shelter he was just in. He goes to his tent, and when he goes back up to the shelter and finds this hanging there. Tries to go to sleep, hears something moving around outside. He looks outside and sees a guy walking around wearing a headlamp. And he
No,
decides in the middle of the night to
Right.
walk back the 2 miles to his truck.
Yeah, I probably would too.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, figure out a way to get through there with no light if possible.
look, man, if he's seen Blair Witch, you know you need to get back to your truck. You don't want him to stay out there. So
Yeah.
this is one of those things we don't actually see. For all we know, the person in the tent out there, the person he sees, might not even be that guy. But I think he's smart for assuming it is.
Yeah.
That dead duck could not have been laying there long. Some animal would have ran off with that.
Yeah,
And the fact
there would have been
Mhm.
signs of decay on it as well. That looked like it was
fresh, yeah.
Like
Leave it
freshly
there.
killed.
Well, and the women
sprinkle
said
some weird random writings around and leave and just see what happens.
one of the
Go
things we
20
he's
yards
not-
away and watch.
He's not filming continuously. He would film after things would happen, or he would find things. So, like, that's why the women weren't on film. He just talks about like he saw them, right?
Yeah.
And I guess from what we read, like they had seen the guy. It's just messed up, man. I honestly don't think I would have went out there and even camped. But
No, I probably would have just called it
No,
a
hell
day.
no.
And like, nope, sun's still out. I'm just gonna go
Yeah.
home. I don't
would've
need to film
probably
this.
done- when he
Yeah,
said
fuck
the-
this.
when the
Right.
women said they were going to call the cops, I would have called the cops.
Mm-hmm. And what happens if the cops show up and they find him instead of the guy they're looking for?
Right.
Like,
No,
hey,
no,
we hear
nothing.
you're leaving weird notes all over the forest. The yeet mouse. That's
The yeet mouse.
what the
Yeet
hell's a
mouse.
yeet mouse? Is a dude just in the woods throwing mice at people? Just
sounds like
yeeting?
sounds like a new DJ that everybody probably like. But
DJ Yeet Mouse. Yeah.
all right, Matt, what you got for us today?
All right. So I found a clip that I've seen in some other context, and it has always kind of stuck with me. I went and found the original clip, and shout out to everybody who goes into the comments and leaves timestamps for things. You guys are the best. You helped me edit this clip quite a bit. It's part of I think it's like an hour-long video. The clip comes from Finders Beavers History Keepers. I think is the full name of the channel, but they just go by at Finders Beavers on YouTube. These two guys over in the UK, just general UK area. I'm not sure where specifically. They do urban exploring and they take a dog with them named Bear. And you guys, like I said, you guys have probably seen this clip in the past, but they put a GoPro on this dog and just let him run through the building and just film stuff. And then they clip that into their videos at the end. And in this one, they're checking out a house, and I've kind of clipped some of, a few little highlights from the timestamps that people said, and kind of a little bit longer clip, but it's necessary to be as long as it is. So you'll see what's going on here.
Where's it gone?
So the dog is up there. There's a dog. His name's Bear. And you just start hearing.
I have seen these guys before.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I know exactly.
I might
circles.
boost this audio.
Again. Can you stop being a nightmare? Come here.
Like my dog.
Come here. Come on. You're not in trouble. You are a little bit, but not.
So what you hear in that clip is somebody running down a set of stairs.
Cute dog.
Now the dog keeps like going upstairs to this one room,
Started barking randomly.
and they're just like, what is he doing? He's trying to let them know, you should follow me. There's some crazy stuff going on up here. So he's got the little GoPro there, and I think he's got another one on like around his neck. Oh no, it's a light. But yeah, this dog is like on high alert.
Outside. He was upstairs, wasn't he? I just don't know if he'll look. Is the windows he can get to?
I'm not too happy with these gentlemen. Like, if my dog kept running up to something and I thought somebody might be in the house, I wouldn't let my dog keep running up. Bro, I mean, you don't know if people are going to be nice or not.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, they say he'll go up, but
To get back up again.
yeah, he's not interested in going all the way back up.
You like turn the whole thing though, don't you? And then that's
Now you'll hear some
got a
noise
lock on
here.
it there for a bathroom cabinet. That makes no sense at all. Bear, you're just causing so much bother. What the fuck? Did you hear that?
And what you heard is somebody just running down a flight of stairs.
But they're. Oh, I see. So, oh, that's weird. What a weird setup.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
they're in a different room. Now this dog is like, okay. Yeah.
I mean, he's clearly telling them where.
Hello?
Yeah. Where things were, where things are, things like that.
Hello? Bear, what are you doing? He's covered in cobwebs. Absolutely covered.
Yeah, this dog just goes under places, including
Do you know
under
what we're doing
beds.
this? We can watch his footage back. I'll have to do it on his camera.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because that dude's freaking
Now
out.
both
You
sat
can
in
tell
his
he's
bedroom
not.
with Bear
happy
as
with
well.
Yeah.
I
And
don't
definitely
start
watch this
barking
full
on
video
him,
because
you know.
it is
I'm going
crazy.
to fucking leg it through that. I'm going to break that door down. He stood there looking.
Upstairs again.
He hadn't even got a camera on at this moment either. Right, we need to show you something on this camera because his camera's in my hand of what he's just seen. And I hadn't looked at all the footage yet. I've just seen one thing and it has chilled me. It has proper chilled me.
So they're
Look
still
at
in that
this.
same room right now.
Right.
But
So
not where the
20
dog filmed
seconds or so
this.
from now. So he's walking around that bedroom. Can you see?
I can just see, yeah.
We'll see better when we look at the footage properly. But look.
This is the bedroom at the top
Second.
of the other set of
2
stairs that's
seconds.
there.
Look under the bed. Look under the bed in a sec. When he turns back round towards the bed, there's an hand there, and he shits himself. He absolutely shits himself.
This is the actual footage.
Somebody laying under the
That's
bed.
when
The
we
dog.
had him
It scares the
barking.
dog, and he runs and goes to get them.
They're lucky.
I don't like
So
that.
there was somebody in
Yeah.
here. 100% there was somebody in here.
How come we never heard him or seen him?
What if they've been laying under bed, dead still?
You did hear
How's
him.
he not seen him before?
This
He's been up and
part
down
of the
stairs.
video, they'd been in the
Must have
house
been
for at
so
least
quiet
30 to
and so
45
still, probably
minutes.
got stuff
But they did hear
overtook them or
somebody go
whatever.
down the flight of stairs. They've heard a couple of noises.
Yeah.
Disappeared again now.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot I didn't put in this, where they're hearing, like you can hear sounds, you can hear people talking.
He's shaking away, I'm shaking up here.
I don't know what to. Like, we just sat in this little bedroom, aren't we? Knowing that there's only one way. Oh, it's his torch. Shoot me up again. Oh my god, this is horrible.
It's the light from the dog.
Bear,
And they're freaking out about that.
So I want to get your guys' opinion on
stay up
this
and
sort of
protect us up
situation.
here.
You're in a place, especially a house like this, right?
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
you realize there's squatters in it. Do you leave? Do you just leave?
Yeah. There's no need for
I
me to
would
be
leave.
there.
Yeah.
I would leave. I would just leave.
Yeah. And
They're trying to find a place to stay, and like obviously they're not
Best
trying to.
case scenario. They're trying to
They're
find a
not
place
trying
to
to.
stay.
Well, like this person was like, "Oh shit," and just
Mhm.
tried to hide from them. Wasn't trying to start anything.
Yeah.
And it would terrify me, but
Mhm.
I would just
Yeah.
leave, especially with my dog. I would be
Yeah.
like, my dog would never
right.
have a bark
Yeah.
with this person. So
Now, in the comments of that original video, like I said, there was people who put timestamps in there. I went back and I listened at those timestamps, and most of them I didn't really hear stuff, but there are some where you hear somebody go, "Put it down," like not super clear, but you can hear it in the background of like, "Hey,
do you
put
think
that
there's
down." There was somebody in there.
two people at least in there?
There had to have been two people, yeah, but they only caught one of them on camera. But you hear movement down a flight of stairs twice in the video.
Yeah, they're trying to get out.
Yeah, one of
trying to
them
get
gets
out
out, the other
means-
one ends up hiding under the bed, is what it
Yeah,
seems like.
That's what I think. Yeah.
Allegedly, at one point, they can hear a woman's voice say, "Get out, you bastards." And
Makes sense.
I didn't hear it myself, but somebody gave like an exact timestamp on that.
But it is
So-
dangerous because
Mhm.
some homeless people are homeless because they have mental issues, schizophrenia, things like that. So you don't want to just
Right.
you guys, all I'm saying is if anybody out there is doing this sort of thing, just be careful.
Yeah.
Probably going alone, not the smartest move ever
Mhm.
as well. But you guys out there, let us know, man. Do you think stuff like this is scarier than the actual ghost when people run into actual people when they're out doing this stuff? Let us know in the comments down below. We want to hear what you guys think. All right, let's go ahead and take a break and come back with this week's spooky scary time, which actually kind of flows in a similar vein. Only this story is messed up. So we'll be right back. All right, guys, time to go into this week's spooky scary time. This is a really interesting story, and I've kind of wanted to talk about it for a while. Was looking for we're not a true crime show. And you guys can make up your mind how paranormal this is or isn't. We're going to take a trip back to 1986. We're going to take a trip back to the town of Townsend, Massachusetts. We're going to venture into a normal looking neighborhood. And if you see, this is a nice, quaint looking little town. We're going to go into an ordinary looking house. But what's about to take place in this house is anything but ordinary. A man named Brian lives here with his two daughters, 15-year-old Annie and her younger sister, Jessica. Now, as fate would have it, tragedy had recently struck this family when they lost their mother recently to cancer. And now Brian, finding himself a full-time single dad, is forced to work longer hours just to make ends meet. So, the girls, they're alone most evenings. They're young. They're bored. One night, they decide they're going to pull out a Ouija board, and they're going to try to contact their dead mother. Never a good idea, right? Already we're going, red flags, don't do it. I tell you this because although nothing actually happened with the Ouija board itself, they didn't make any kind of contact through the Ouija board. It is the beginning of some very odd occurrences. Them pulling out this Ouija board is sort of the start to everything that goes weird, right? So after using the Ouija board, nothing happens. The girls finally say, screw it, let's just go to bed. So they each head to their own rooms and they settle down for sleep. But before long, Jessica starts hearing this light tapping sound on her wall. She's a little freaked out, a little nervous. So she gets up and she goes to Annie's room. And Annie confirms, yes, I hear it too. I can hear this tapping noise. So right away, they begin to think maybe the Ouija board worked, right? And this might be their mother trying to communicate with them. So they begin asking questions, right? Like trying to get some kind of response back. And they're getting tapping, but nothing else. Eventually, the tapping noise stopped. Brian gets home, and of course, the daughters, they go and they're all excited and they tell him what happened. He sort of shrugs it off. He figures this is just a reaction of grief. And overall, it's harmless, that nothing bad has happened. So he's not really going to worry. But the thing is, that tapping noise, that's going to continue to happen to them, but only in the girls' rooms. And whenever they would call for Brian, that tapping noise would just miraculously stop. So things would kind of start to escalate after that. They would often leave the house and return and find furniture or items moved around in the house, things like that. The girls are scared that something is in the house, but Brian is convinced that it's actually one of the girls doing this. This is some kind of cry from help. So this starts to get a little turmoil in the family, a little aggravation, a little frustration that they're trying to tell dad something's happening, and dad's kind of like, I think it's one of you two. I think this is a grief thing. So one night the sisters, they're at home alone again. Brian's at work, and they start hearing this tapping noise. Only this time it's not coming from the bedroom; it's coming from somewhere else. So they start following it, and they realize it's coming from the basement. So together they decide they're going to go down and they're going to confront whatever this tapping noise is. They enter the basement, and what they find is a message written on the wall in red. The words, "Come find me. I'm in your closet." Now, for me, I'm out. I mean, I'm like, nope. In full honesty, and all, for them, same thing. They book it out of the house. They're like, no way. They leave the house. They run across the street to a neighbor's house. They wait. They're like, we're gonna wait till dad gets home. As soon as he does, they call him over. They signal him in. They're like, no, we're over here, and they tell him what happened. And Brian's kind of like, all right, sure. So he's like, I'm gonna go check it out. He goes over, and sure enough, he actually finds the message on the wall. Oh, he still doesn't buy it. He still thinks this is one of his daughters acting out and looking for attention. So he talks to them both, and he says, I want you guys to go to some grief counseling, right? So he signs them up to grief counseling, and that actually seems to work. Everything kind of settles down for a few weeks. Nothing happens in the house. No noises, no messages on the wall, nothing. Things seem to kind of settle back to normal. But then one night it starts again. Brian's at work. The girls are home alone together, and the tapping starts again. So the girls once again follow the sound, and this time it leads them to Annie's bedroom. They kind of follow it up to Annie's room. They enter the room and they find another message written on the wall. Only this time it reads, "I'm back. Find me if you can." So the girls run out of the house again. They go back to the same neighbor's house. Brian gets home. They once again tell him what happened, and once again he gets a little aggravated. I mean, think of it from where he's standing. Like, I got him grief counseling. And while they were like, this sort of mellowed out. So he really does think it's just one of the girls crying out for attention. But he's like, guys, let's go home. Like, we just need to go back to our own house. We need to chill with all this. So they return to the house, and Brian's like, I'll search. I'll search. I know we're not going to find anything, but I will search just to appease you guys. So he starts searching the house again, expecting to find nothing. Only as soon as they enter the house, they find the house is a complete mess. It's a total disaster. There's stuff everywhere. It looks like condemned property from what they put it. And right away, Brian knows, hey, this isn't my daughter's. They didn't do this. Something's wrong. So he freaked out, and he slowly starts to search the house. They're kind of with him. He reaches Annie's room, and he finds another message on the wall. That isn't all he finds. When he turns around, he sees the figure of a man standing in the closet, dressed in a wig and what he described as an old Native American style vest. And this person is wielding a hatchet. So Brian rushes the man. There's a tussle. The guy forces all three of them into a bedroom, locks them in. But Tina manages to escape through a window. She runs to the neighbors. She calls the cops. Cops show up. They search the house and find nothing. They search the neighborhood. They can't find anybody in the neighborhood. Like, they can't find anything. They do believe them, but there's just nothing they can do because they have nothing to go on. So Brian, who I'm sure is feeling a little guilty at this point, he says, all right, I'm going to take you girls. We're going to go stay with a family member for the next few days. So during that time, while they're staying with family members, the cops, they keep regularly patrolling the house. They keep checking up on the house, but nothing happens. They don't see anything weird, nothing out of place. And so after a few days, it's assumed that maybe a guy had broke into the house and they scared him off and he's not going to come back. So Brian decides, look, at some point we got to return home. So they do. They make it, they go to return home, but they don't make it inside the house. See, as they approach the house, they see a light on upstairs. And as they watch they see a man dressed in their deceased mother's clothes walk past the window. So Brian's freaking out. He immediately calls the cops. They go inside the house. They block all the entrances. They go inside the house. Now remember, these guys have been gone for a couple of days. The cops go inside the house. They find furniture flipped over on end. They find more red writing throughout the entire house. They find pennies glued to the ceiling. Now, at first, they think the house is empty. Nobody's in it. But then one of the officers notices a small door. It's a little wooden door, partially hidden behind the dryer, leading into a crawl space in the basement. So he pulls back the door, and they find this creepy ass tunnel. Like someone has been burrowing through the insulation so someone can make their way through the house. And they find little peepholes where somebody's been able to watch the girls. So as they continue to search, they end up finding a man. They find a young man named Daniel LaPlante. So Daniel has managed to squeeze his way through an opening he found in the foundation of the house. And one of the officers actually drew like a diagram. I have tried to figure this out. He like squeezed through this opening on the outside of the house that dropped them down into it so he could actually hide in the house. So somehow Daniel managed to get Annie's phone number, right, at one point in time. And he struck up a phone relationship with her. Like he would call her and talk to her. He created this whole fake persona of himself. And during these calls, he would tell her, like, he would say his name was Daniel, but he would act like he was somebody else altogether, like build up a fake who I really am kind of thing. But eventually she agreed to meet up with him, to go out with him. But when she actually did meet him, she said she was like really turned off by this guy. Like he kind of freaked her out. And so she figured it was a one-off date, no harm, no foul kind of thing. She just moved on. But the problem was this guy's obviously not all there. So Daniel had a history of sneaking into people's houses. Usually he would take small items. He would move things around to kind of freak people out. But this time when he broke into Annie's house, he found a way to hide and actually live inside the walls, which they said he did off and on for months. I've read almost a year. This guy was living inside of these walls off and on, right? So while in the house one night, he overheard these two girls talking about their mother. And when they did, he kind of thought, maybe I can adopt the persona of their dead mom. So that's what he was doing. He would hear them on certain nights. He would stop when he heard Brian. We don't know when he was there, when he wasn't. That's why sometimes they didn't hear it. Sometimes they did. So they take Daniel and they put him in juvie, where he would stay until it's determined whether he was old enough to be tried as an adult or not. And what that meant is when they determined he was old enough to be tried as an adult, that meant he was eligible for bail. So Matt, you said you knew a little bit about this story. Did you know all of this part?
Yeah.
So this is the part that what I just told is the part that actually doesn't get talked about that much. It's what happens next that everybody knows. And this is what you guys can see where I said it. It sounds very paranormal. You know, Ouija board, tapping on the walls, seeing people moving throughout the house, things getting moved. But it's the next bit of story. I'm going to give it to you quickly. And this is the kind of tragic part of the story. But I really wanted to finish it, even though we're not a true crime podcast. Once out on bail, he starts breaking into people's houses again. And during one of these break-ins, he actually steals 2 handguns. So one day there was a break-in at the home of Andrew and Priscilla in Townsend, where they lived with their 2 kids. One of them was 5, one of them was 7. And they were actually expecting a 3rd kid that was on the way. So they reported this break-in incident to the police, noting a few very small items were missing and a few things had been moved around, but it hadn't looked like anything major had really gone missing. And so even though they reported it, not a lot came of it, right? Then one afternoon, a couple of weeks later, Priscilla had just picked up their son from the babysitter and she returned home. A while after that, her daughter arrived home, getting dropped off by the school bus. Now, Andrew this time is still at work. He had, in fact, been working a big real estate deal, and he was like super excited that it looked like it was going to go through. And since he was so excited, he decided he was going to call home and tell Priscilla, hey, find a sitter for the kids. I'm taking you out tonight. This huge deal's going through. But when he calls, she doesn't answer. So he waits a little bit, tries a couple more times. Nobody answers. Apparently, he doesn't live that far away from the house. So he's like, I'm just going to drive over there, make sure everything's okay. He gets to his house. He finds Priscilla's car in the driveway.
Mm.
He says when he stepped inside the house, he instantly felt like something's not right. Right. He ends up finding Priscilla upstairs in the bedroom, pillow over her head, a few gunshot wounds, a few other things we won't get into. So he's freaked out, completely in shock. He doesn't want to find the kids. He's like, I knew something was, I don't want to see the kids. So instead he runs downstairs, calls the police. The police come, they escort him outside of the house. They end up finding the son upstairs has been drowned in one of the bathtubs. The daughter had been beat and also drowned in a bathtub, a different bathtub. The killer had left a message on the walls, and that message instantly, the police were like, it's Daniel LaPlante. Like they knew. So they had enough probable cause for a warrant, and they used that warrant. They searched his place. They did find objects from Andrew and Priscilla's house. So now a new warrant is issued for his arrest. They begin a manhunt because no one knew where he is. They end up finding him 10 miles away, hiding in a dumpster. So they end up catching him, like I said, hiding in a dumpster. They found physical evidence on him, hair, things like that. Yeah, he would go to jail. He would continue to state his innocence, though. He was given trial, found guilty, and given 3 consecutive life sentences. 30 years later, Daniel requested a reduction of his sentence as he was a juvenile when he was tried, but the psychiatrist found him to be unfit, and it was denied. He'll be eligible again for parole in 2032. Have heard that his home life was not so great, that he might have been abused, and that he was bullied and picked on a lot. But yeah.
Well, when you do creepy shit like that, yeah, you've made yourself the weird kid who then goes on to live in the walls of a family, and then it just escalates even further.
So,
but I'm not saying
it did escalate. You're right, though. It
escalated a lot. Yeah,
you're right. So my questions are like, what? And like, I don't know. Well, what triggers? Like, why he never physically harmed Annie or Jessica or Brian? So what made him get to a point where?
Well, some would say that the fact that he had a hatchet in his hand when they did confront him.
But all he ended up, you're right. But all he ended up doing was locking them in a bedroom, and it's so weird to me. Is it just Brian overpowered him enough that he didn't feel secure, but then when he got the gun, he felt
could be
like it's weird. But can you imagine finding out that this kid, this like 17-year-old, was living in your walls for almost a year?
Yeah,
watching you, listening to you, and putting on this persona that he was your deceased mother, like trying to make you think that he was the ghost of your mother, and how scared that would make you. Like I live in a house that is such no one could live in my walls. There's no place for them. I think you showed the picture of the house. It was a much bigger place. It's a much larger house than what I live in. That's for sure. Yeah, that's a messed up thing, man. And that's what I said. Sometimes when we say sometimes truth is scarier than fiction, a ghost is a ghost is a ghost, right? If I see a ghost, it's scary, but what apparently they can't do much more than move a chair, on a light switch, whatever.
Swing a door really hard.
But this guy, well, you see what he ends up having the potential to do. So
glue pennies to your ceiling.
But
okay, so think of it this way: you're walking through your house, you don't know that there's a 17-year-old kid living in the walls, and you just look up and go, "How did that penny get on the ceiling?" You're now distracted. Okay,
right?
That you've got somebody who's convinced you to look up at something and go, "What's going on there?" And then they can attack.
Yeah, but you're weak every night.
Yeah.
How many times did he come out and stand in their bedrooms while they were like we don't know these things.
We don't know what all was found in that little crawl space area.
And you could live in a crawl space for weeks at a time.
Right.
Like, I mean, there's something messed up in you anyway.
Yeah. Now, if I remember this story correctly, when the police actually found him in their house. He had buried himself under their laundry, and one of them happened to see his eye sticking out through a space in the laundry. So he could watch them while he was hiding and knew where they were. And a cop came up and put their weapon up against what would be his head and told him to get out. They found him by seeing his eye. That's the only part that they saw was his eye.
It's much more terrifying.
Yeah.
To know that it was really a person now. And when you hear that story, I mean, it starts off supernatural. I mean,
like, wow, it's spooky. No.
Somebody passes away, they pull out a Ouija board. Next thing you know, they start hearing tapping, messages written on the walls. Last week, we did the Moreno Valley poltergeist. And these two stories have a lot of things in common where you're like,
very similar.
Yeah, only this one to me gets way scarier. To a degree. It's scary to me to think I have a poltergeist in my house and nothing I do seems to be making it stop. At least in this one, once you find the guy,
this is a different kind of scary.
Yeah. It's a more real scary. So.
Yeah. There's not only something you could do about it, but there's also the potential. There's nothing you can do about it.
Exactly.
Like he could come out at any time he wants and do whatever he wants, and probably did without them knowing it.
Being a father, that like what Brian must have felt, because I actually do get it. In Brian's head, he's going, one of these kids is crying out for help, and later he must have just felt like shit. Like, I can't believe I didn't.
I blamed my kids when in reality there was a 17-year-old kid in my house that I was unaware of, and none of us were aware of.
But for a while, he had nothing to go on.
Yeah,
there weren't messages on the wall. I mean, he found one written in the basement.
Yeah,
but he wasn't hearing anything. He wasn't seeing anything. In his defense, the second he saw the house destroyed, he's like, "It isn't them." Like that's so. I don't know.
Meanwhile, in the Moreno Valley poltergeist story, even when the guy saw it with his own eyes, he was still trying to blame his kids.
Yeah, I think we talked about that on that. I think it gets in your head kind of situation. I really do.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, let us know if you knew about this story. And once again, like I said, let us know if you think some of this true stuff is scarier than the ghost stuff. We're not going to go into true crime podcasts, so we're not going to do that show. There's enough of that out there. We will.
There's plenty.
Ghosts and Bigfoots, damn it. Let us know what your thoughts.
The Bigfoot breaks into your house and lives in the walls, and you don't know about it. That's a problem.
Yeah, that's a story we all want to hear.
Yeah.
Sasquatch in my walls. I gave him some Jack Links. Everything was good.
Yeah.
This episode sponsored by Jack Links. We're not, but if you want to sponsor us, we'd be more than happy.
Please do. That'd be great.
Guys, thank you so much.
That would be awesome.
Everybody who has subscribed. If you have not subscribed, that's a huge help for the show. Please go down and subscribe. We're getting some great feedback and some great comments. We love that. We welcome that. We really like interacting with people. We like hearing your opinions on stuff. Whether you think things are real, whether you think things are fake, stuff you noticed. We love it. So please go over, like, and comment on the videos. We do the dailies a few times a week. I shouldn't say daily. So we're doing, I think, 3 small clips a week, 1 full episode, and then we do minis here and there. So I think we have a mini episode that'll be coming out somewhere in here, where we just kind of do one-offs and stuff. So please stick around with us. Please subscribe for all kinds of juicy, good, creepy goodness. I think that's all. You can email us if you have a story or anything you want us to know, because we would love to hear your personal stories. KindaCreepyShow@gmail.com is where you go for that.
Get some clips there too.
We are on social medias. We're on all of the big ones. We're on the Fosse book. We have a group over there you can go join. We are on TikTok. We just do the small clips there, not the big full episodes, if you want to go watch those. Instagram, we do the Instagram stuff, and we are also on Bluesky. Bluesky is a Twitter alternative, and we do some cool stuff over there. And of course, YouTube. This is our home. This is where we are. So we thank all of you guys for joining us here each week. I want to say thank you. And if there were any technical glitches, we apologize, because we were dealing with them ourselves today. So we hope everything went off without a hitch. And we thank you for sticking around. Till next time, guys. Remember,
keep it creepy.
Keep it creepy.
Keep it creepy.
There's one of those glitches.